drawing products that are built out of elliptical cross sections, like what we see here, let's say that's a water bottle, can be quite difficult, specifically when you are new to it. So in this two-part demo, I would like to show you how we can create this one in a one-point perspective, and then actually how we could do this in a much better looking two-point perspective. So here on the right side, I have myself created a small sketch. This is actually my horizon line. This is my vertical center line. You see I somewhat framed a little bit the product. Maybe this one could be a little bit higher, and here this one we moved down a little bit. Okay, so let's go first into the basics of one-point perspective. So we're only dealing with one very simple vanishing point, this one here. So everything actually goes to that vanishing point. So now let's say we would like to draw a very basic cylindrical box. So I can, for example, from the vanishing point to one corner and to there, draw two lines. Ideally, you want left and right to be exactly the same, and let's guess the depth, maybe something like this. Okay, perfect. So what we have to do now is, because this is our ground plane, we can put in an ellipse. So here's my ellipse template. This one has to be scaled down there. So maybe like this. Very important in one point, as you can see, the center point of my ellipse is exactly on the vertical midline. I skipped drawing the diagonals, but you will see when I put those in. Hold on, let me put down my guide system here, there, and again, it's always the same. So the ellipse template, the points necessarily, as you can see, don't touch actually the line, but the ellipse perfectly touches the edge right where we have our midline. So one point perspective, exactly the same. Okay, so this is now the bottom part. Now I have to create the top view. So I can, from the vanishing point to this front box, map down another line. Then ideally you want to go exactly horizontally to the right. So here like this. And then another line to there. Okay, great. Now let me show you. This is kind of like my vertical guide, front edge, and here in the back there comes another line up. Same actually there, because then in the back we can draw in another line, and you see basically we created a box, and with the box we can then plot in another ellipse there, roughly. Okay, and let's pay attention to the difference between these ellipses. So you see the more it gets actually to the horizon line here, the smaller the minor axis, and the further it gets away from the horizon line, the bigger the minor axis. So if we take a look now at our object here on the left, you can see that essentially down here there would be one ellipse, there would be one ellipse, and here we have one ellipse. So even on the top ellipse, I can actually see the top surface. So that tells me that kind of like in between what I sketch here, that's my space to put my drawing in. And obviously the ellipses there are way too wide. So I have to adjust actually my 1-point perspective. And what I can do in this case is simply this. Let me undo all these steps. Okay. So there. All we have to do now is I can take my midline and not my midline, my horizontal line, move it up. Okay. Because then again from maybe there to the bottom I can draw a line and there. And let's try to guess maybe the proportional square, maybe like this. Yeah, okay, good. So, and we would like to see the top part as well. So maybe here I will use this as a helper. There I can draw this line over, and now I need to figure out kind of like where is this back line. Again, I can use my guide tool, and from this point you can see when I plot a line straight up, it touches this part there somewhere. So now actually one line to the right there, and then a line down. There's again my box. I have to rotate these lines a little bit. They're not 100% correct. Something is a little bit off here. Okay, probably. Oh yeah, this line is slightly crooked. Okay. So you see now I have my bottom and my top view, and again the ellipses will change their shape. So let's bring in ellipse for the bottom there, and let's go for the top. Maybe better to zoom in a little bit there and there, so you see it gets very tiny. Okay, so if I now would draw actually vertical sidelines, there is my cylinder. Okay, very easy. And you can see the bottom plate is visible and the top face is visible. Now the object on the left side actually has a surface that is slightly angled, and then also the bottom is a little bit more narrow, the mid part is a little bit wider, and then where the blue touches the gray, it gets a little bit more narrow. So in 1-point, these are actually very easy steps. So let me undo the 2 ellipses. No, this one actually we can keep. No, actually we will remove it and show you a little process. So I will use blue as a different color because this big box here, this basically defines the maximum left and right width. But you see that my other ellipses inside my model then are more narrow. So how do I get this actually into my drawing? That's pretty easy. So again, we have to work with our box as a model. So there it is. That's number 1. I will go back to black because I need somewhere here maybe another line that's actually defining this part. And so I know the stuff is actually a little bit more accurate. Let's put down there our guideline number 1 and number 2. There. Okay, perfect. So also there, let's plot down the diagonals. Okay. So with the diagonals, we can actually find the geometrical midpoints. And that's quite important, because with the midpoints, we can draw what we need for our ellipses, where it has to touch it. And if we drew everything correctly, this line straight down has to touch this line. Okay, perfect. So now we defined the top and the bottom face, but they're too wide. So, and let's say, let me go with this color, this point, and they are exactly above each other. So inside the sketch, from the vanishing point, for example, I decide now kind of like an offset, how it gets smaller. And then I can use a ruler or basically draw a line this way, and then again from the vanishing point, they all have to line up, and there we are, perfect. So you see now we have actually a smaller ellipse. And to transfer this onto this face we created on top, we only have to plot up maybe one line. So maybe let's see which is easy to see. Yeah. So going up, you can see where it cuts actually that diagonal. So there we can draw a line. Let me do this one actually in red. Otherwise it gets a little bit confusing. And you see here, there it cuts the back diagonal. There it cuts the back diagonal. And this and this, they can be connected. So there's now our second a smaller square. So basically, as you can see now, we have a cube inside a cube. And that's very important, because there we can perfectly map in our ellipses. So there is number 1. Let me zoom in a little bit. There and there. Okay. There. And let's draw it in. So that's the bottom. Let's go to the top. There's the next one. There. Okay. So how do we do then actually this wider midsection of the lower blue body? So in that case, we have this vertical distance, and somewhere at the center we can insert it. So how do we find the correct center? Well, let's see if I can select a different color. Let's select this green. So on a front face, I can, for example, make myself the diagonals and then a little bit of ghosting. there is the midline. I always tend to draw on the right side a little bit up on the iPad. Okay, so, and let's go back to gray. So from this point here to the midpoint to, the vanishing point, there and there. There is now actually my square that is right in the center. So then there we can add another ellipse. This time here it really fills the whole square because this ellipse is bigger. There. A little trick, still put down your midlines because, diagonals. Today I have a lot of speaking issues. It's one of these days where my brain does not want to speak English. And then put down the midline. Because with this now we have all the necessary corner points. So with corner points, I'm talking about this, this, and this, 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 and this, because we can then nicely actually draw an arc along them. So again, to draw nice and smooth curves, ghost, draw big. So you see, even on a computer, I actually increase my screen so I can ghost the lines much better. Okay, so there you know, you see we created a vessel that has a slimmer bottom and a slimmer top and is a little bit wider at the center part. So I cleaned up the sketch a little bit because we have to focus now on the top part. So how do we sketch this? First, when we go back and take a look at what we have, we can see that this area is flat, and then here it goes at an angle, and then it's flat, and then in addition this is actually also at an angle, while this is horizontal and this is parallel. Sounds very complicated. Not really in one point. It's actually pretty easy. So if you compare this, we can already kind of see that first. Whoops, that was the wrong slider. This line and this edge, they overlap. And this edge up here overlaps with this edge down there. Okay, so, which means the following. I can first, on my top face, draw in a diagonal. And the main reason why I decided to draw the diagonals is now with a vertical line straight up. So I know actually it touches it there, and there, and then horizontally over. Actually, that one we maybe can skip. But this is basically now here our front box. This line that might be difficult to see, so I will try to draw this one more pressure so you can see it. And there, there's kind of like my front face. And then when I start drawing my horizontal lines, they actually, come on, they can go till the edge of my box there. You start noticing also one issue of the 1-point perspective. The closer you get actually to the horizon line, the smaller the surfaces get to draw on. Okay, let's do exactly the same one more time. So I will maybe roughly here draw a somewhat horizontal line till there. Okay, and then from there to there. Another horizontal line. Our snapping system is cranky this morning. There. Maybe I touched the display with my other hand a little bit. Okay, so why did I do this? I have to plot these corner points in the back down. And, ooh, this is going to be a tough detail there. Because then here we have another square. Very important. Now we can actually put down our ellipses. Let's select blue for these ellipses. So here obviously they will be off center. Number one. Let's go down and there. This is actually the same, just a different angle. Okay, we're getting pretty close to the first version. Currently you see I took a shortcut. I made actually the ellipses horizontal. And then I will show you how we do this angled. Okay, we also need to find kind of like the midline, so roughly there's the midline. Okay, so straight up, there it is. We have probably there midline, so there's the contour. Okay, let me put another line over it, maybe a little bit stronger there, maybe this color, and then I will quickly sketch over the stuff so we can take a look at the proportions we got. So this is all linear. Oh, this pen is too thick. There and there. Then this actually goes down. Here we have this ellipse. There, this goes down here, then goes up. And okay, so let's take a look. There you can start seeing actually the shape. Okay, but we actually want this to be at an angle. And this now in 1 point perspective is very, very easy. So let's go back to here, because all I need to do now, let me undo all these steps, is these blue ellipses we have there. We simply have to draw them at an angle. Okay, so this is more or less still what we need, but now we can decide the amount of the rotation. I need to get rid of, oh, maybe I can keep actually these midlines, but here's the trick now. So I will use maybe this blue. So ideally you want to not multiply, multiply, foreshorten actually, so the distance will be the same. The main reason is I then this way get my vertical lines I will draw in a second being parallel in my sketch. So here, maybe quickly something like this, go over, maybe a little bit more pressure there. Okay. And this goes straight down, and then there is our other face. Okay, goody. Here a line, so I can delete this blue line. So why did I do this? Well, very simple. I can now draw these lines, and that is actually, as you can see, at an angle. I have on top my red diagonal, so I can find roughly the midline on those edges. That's very important, because with the midline I can plot it down here vertically, and then there I can draw a diagonal, not a diagonal, like a midline, but at an angle. Here I will draw this line somewhat the same, and then let me use a different color, maybe an easy to read green. So there in the back to there, and from there to there, and there is the midline. The midline is very important actually for my ellipses. So now I can go ahead and start sketching my ellipses on it. Yep. So this point has to be there and there. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be there, but I do it this way so I can figure out actually the orientation there. Okay, because the ellipse has to run through there to a certain degree, and bang, there is my line. Let's go to the top, there and there. Okay, and draw an ellipse. So make a dot here. You see the dot is actually right where that center point is, because I would like to show you something. If I start drawing a line through there and I go back, you see actually that this is the minor axis. So my rotation is a tiny bit off, but there. So that's maybe the way how it rather should be. So at an angle, obviously, with the ellipse here, the minor axis is right below our midpoint, but then on that angled surface, and because the ellipse is also shifted a little bit to the right, it is a little bit offset. Okay, so now we can go ahead and, for example, start a new quick trace. I will do this kind of fast so you see roughly the proportions we got. There's that shape there. Okay, there's that one. Maybe just I only want to sketch this edge there and there. Let's bring this in a little bit. Okay, now here we have a line that goes down. Maybe this bends and arcs over. Whoops. Let's rotate your page, or digitally rotate the document. Nice big arcs. Here again, this line comes down and then flows into that arc. Same here, it comes down and should better flow in than I sketched it. Let's correct it. and there. Okay, maybe a little cross section there. Little background detail. Ooh, that's off. There. Also here. Okay. A little bit there and there. Okay, let's take a look. There, you see? Very easy. Works quite well. There's only one problem. It's a one-point perspective. And a one-point perspective can sometimes be rather not very interesting, rather boring. So in part 2, I will show you kind of like the way how I would approach this if when you're new to it and you would like to draw this one inside a 2-point perspective view.